And what would you like to see from our next governor and likely new commissioner of education? And I'll let anybody who wants to grab the mic get us started.
Sure, I'll start.
No surprise.
I wasn't here last year. I should go first this year. First off, it's great to be with you all. Jonathan, thank you for having us. Betsy, it's my honor to sit next to you as well. You do a great job representing school boards all across the state of New Jersey. Look, we have had 8 years of what I would term, and I'm not being political, I think I'm being factual, grossly irresponsible leadership, especially when it comes to budgeting overall and school budgeting in particular. We've increased our, and Jonathan was right, we face some particular challenges now, partly because of the failure of this past 8 years. But if you look at the numbers, it is impossible to argue against the fact that despite increasing school spending by 50%, from $8 billion to almost $12 billion now, we still have hundreds of school districts that are struggling, some of them critically struggling, threatening to file for bankruptcy. That overarching amount of money, massive $4 billion in spending, we did slavishly adhering to what was, before the influx of $22 billion in COVID money, looked on as an aspirational number. We were wholly irresponsible, quite frankly, by fully funding the school funding formula rather than reworking the school funding formula. We could have reworked the school funding formula, spent a whole load of extra money on schools, just not an obscene amount of money on schools. We could have trimmed S2 cuts or eliminated them in the last few years, which would have helped a lot of the school districts represented here. We could have given a boatload more money to school districts that were being shortchanged before S2 was implemented. Newark, Trenton, a number of them. And made the whole system more fair, more solvent, and done it while still saving a chunk of that $4 billion. We missed that opportunity. And Republicans, this one in particular, have been talking about this for 8 years now. So we missed that opportunity. The school funding formula is fully funded. We have increased spending by $4 billion, and we have as well, despite a $24 billion increase in spending, a $4 billion structural deficit. We are at a crossroads, and if we don't fix things now, if we don't elect responsible leadership now, and there's no reason to believe that anyone but Jack Ciattarelli is that, we will have another year or two of kicking the can down the road, and I don't know where we go from there. We've already limited our options because of the failure of this administration to act and to make these reforms. School funding, easy prospective pension and benefits reforms, which even labor would have signed on to. We did none of that, which means our budget now is probably $3 to $4 billion more than it should be, and coincidentally, that is our structural deficit. We could have solved all of that. We didn't. It's time for responsible leadership, and Jack Ciattarelli has spoken about that throughout the state for a number of years now. You don't have to wonder where Jack stands on these issues. So I'm happy to support him and happy to support those policies.
Appreciate that, Senator. Anyone want to retort?
Oh, so I guess I'm next, right?
I can't imagine
that I would want to say something in response.
It's okay.
So I will just tell you this, going into my 18th year of service, I was the budget chair of the chair of the education committee under a Republican administration that, if you all remember, you were serving then clawed surpluses to districts to make ends meet, when the school funding formula was not running at 100%, and districts for over decades with exponential growth in thousands of new students with no additional money were forced to make cuts across the board with no kind of empathy or help. Not that there aren't issues where we need to fix, because we know that the cost of transportation continues to go up, that special education in and of itself is a big cost driver, and we need to look at all of this, that keeping staff, instead of having staff sign up for bonuses across to another district and stealing, robbing Peter to pay Paul, there are opportunities. But I'll remind everybody that under a Republican administration, districts that had squirreled away money for a rainy day could not tap those funds during their budget processes when they didn't get any increases to their school districts, and then were told make ends meet. because we were in fiscal despair. I'm aligned with Mikey Sherrill because consistently from day one, before she even announced that she was going to run for governor, we were very much aligned as mothers, right? And really talking about an issue that so many of us were talking about by ourselves before COVID, which is accessibility to high quality infant, toddler, and preschool programs. We always fundamentally, many of us who've been working in the educational space, and I will tell you without a doubt, when I used to have these conversations, or when I had my first hearing, one of the first hearings, I don't know if you recall this, Jonathan, when we had the early childhood for 6 hours with all different kind of individuals coming to present data on how critically important it was, from public safety personnel, national organizations that came in and said, we support universal preschool and the expansion of early childhood because it makes our life better. Members of the NJSBA community coming to the fold and saying, we support these initiatives because when we are looking to ramp up New Jersey personnel and they have to take a test that is at third grade level for math, we don't have enough human capital to fill these positions. We heard from kindergarten teachers who said, we support these early childhood initiatives because it makes my life as a teacher much easier when a kindergartner is prepared to hold a pencil, to recognize letters and colors, and is ready and able to learn how to read, right? Because that's already what should be happening within those early onset years. Mikey Sherrill has made that inherently clear, even with her work on the congressional level, but when you have heard her, she understands a couple of things. One, that New Jersey has a very good public school system, and I don't want to take that away from anybody, but to stand in any corner of the state and say, we have the #1 public schools in the country is a fallacy, and most of you have heard me say this over and over again. I would prefer that one day New Jersey stands up and says, we're #1 in closing the achievement gap. Because then what have you done? We have lifted every single child and got them on grade level. That is both for high performing districts, that when you look at the numbers of the students who are in AP classes versus their counterparts, unfortunately demographics still plays a part there because it has to do with the structure of the house also, right? Give a child two parents who are educated, who speak the language, who have resources to hire a tutor, to call a friend to explain the new math. I'm in those phases right now because the math is mathing for real. And she's in 4th grade, and it's when you know, right? It's not because of lack of love, lack of interest, or when you know about these things, then you do whatever it takes to make sure that your child is going to succeed. I know what learning loss is. I know what grade expectations are. I know where she should be and how she needs to be if she's going to be prepared to go into high school, college, get her doctorate, whatever it is she decides to do after that. A lot of our families don't know these things. And it's not because they don't want to, it's just if you're first gen and you don't fundamentally know these things. So here's where Mikey understands this 100%. Knowing that we have first gen and first families who are going through a public school system process for the first time, we know that the basis of success in creating a New Jersey taxpayer doesn't solely rely in the classroom or in that school building. That there has to be this framework that gets recreated. Just as I said, right here I'm the parent, tutor, after school programming, calling a friend, making sure where she should be. I know these things. But when we have communities and neighbors and families who don't have access to these resources, who do not fundamentally understand how critically important it is to read by 3rd grade, we have to artificially recreate those systems approach so that we take from the womb to a New Jersey taxpayer. And so she's having those conversations. As is, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't serve at the responsibility of the school districts. It serves on a holistic approach in creating these cohesive wraparound services in districts where they're critically needed. And I'm talking about across the board. This is not an urban issue. This is also a rural issue. This is also an issue for suburban high-performing districts who may have families who fall within those cracks because there isn't a framework in those places. And so Mikey Sherrill has demonstrated that not only with action and being on the congressional side in DC, we have heard her say that consistently, very loudly this weekend when we were talking about kind of that infrastructure wraparound. She recognizes the need for new school buildings, and the last time we bonded was the first year that I got elected to office in Corzines' last budget. She recognizes that there are extraordinary needs in New Jersey that do not have to be bifurcated, that do not have to be divisive, but that can be addressed from one geographic zip code to another, because fundamentally, we can do this with a comprehensive lens that's inclusive of everyone and someone who's willing to listen. And that's why I'm supporting Mikey Sherrill.
I appreciate that. That was a lot. There's a lot of priorities for our next governor, because there is a lot of work that lies ahead of us, and appreciate your leadership on the funding issues, Senator. I want to hear from you guys. What would you love to see our next commissioner or governor prioritize with respect to education?
Listen, I'd love to see, and I have in Jack Chitterelli, I'd love to see a governor down in our district. And, you know, let us say we're number one, baby, number one. But, you know, we're forgotten about a lot. And I can tell you over the last, as a school administrator, over the last so many years, is at one point, 50% of the most underfunded schools were in our district. And it's a sad day when you don't have the money to educate the kids. But and back to the point where, I mean, Jack Chitterelli's visited our schools. I think he's been in every municipality in South Jersey, which I have not seen Mikey Sherrill. I think she was in Vineland once. But I believe in, you know, I'm gonna go, I know Jack believes in, and I've been preaching this for a long time, the early intervention system has to be revamped, and it's got to be mandatory, because this would cut out a lot of the problems along the way. We talk about the cost of special education. I taught special education for 18 years, and I know that all of us sitting up here agree that if the state picked up that tab, we probably wouldn't have as many funding issues. But you know, so we look to do that in the future, and I know because I've heard each one of us talk about that. The busing issue, transportation is another issue that needs to be looked at, but it also, the districts that have their own transportation, that have been responsible and got that into their budgets over the years, shouldn't be punished either. So we have to find a way to make sure that they aren't shortchanged as well. But I go back to early intervention, because when those programs started going away, a lot of the issues in special education can be taken away, can be helped and implemented at a young age before, you know, even before they get to puberty or get to middle school and things like that. And even things that be implemented where the cost goes down because they don't need as many services because they've already been served. And a lot of the things have been helped along the way. But, you know, I want to see someone that's my governor. I want to see him in my district. And Jack Chitterelli's done that. He's listened to the people. He's been to schools. He's talked to teachers. He's talked to parents. And I'm going to let my chairwoman speak because she's my chairwoman.
Smart
member.
Well, I like to tell you all of those things and echo some of the things that Teresa, the senator, spoke about with Mikey Sherrill. And I know when we talk about the dollars and cents, part of my background is that I am a municipal finance officer. So when we talk about budgets, I understand when we talk about special education, what the impact that will have on our special need population, making sure that those programs are funded. We recognize that in the school formula that we need to pay more attention to that, especially in the transportation system. You know, the fuel costs, the shortage that we have, we got to make sure that we be able to get our students to school on time. But we also have a teacher shortage. And under the administration we have now, and I'm sure with Mikey Sherrill, we're going to continue to invest in creating that pipeline of having qualified teachers be able to go on. But we also have to address some of the issues that we have on the table right now, and that's the pension. For our new teachers that are coming in, it's an issue that we must continue to work on, and I know we can probably do that with Mikey Sherrill versus the other candidate. As the chairwoman for education and on joint public schools, we hear all types of topics around school absenteeism, learning recovery, and it's something that we're building on one step at a time. It's like you can't retire tomorrow if you haven't invested years ago. We have been investing in our public schools, in our school districts, public, non-public, and private schools continuously. Can we do more? Absolutely. But we have to make sure that we do it fiscally and responsibly. So I look forward to working with Mikey Sherrill as the next governor for the state of New Jersey.
Thank you very much.